Hello, this is Geotech Land. Let's take a look at what is new in the world of tech. So Twitter recently announced that they'll be offering a pay for posts feature called Super Follows, in which users will be able to pay the people they follow for their best tweets. So they can pay a monthly subscription and become a super follower, and they'll be able to see exclusive Twitter posts. This has rubbed people the wrong way because a lot of people are asking the question, should I be paying people to see their tweets? People think of Twitter as a public forum, and if you start sort of limiting to only people that can afford to pay subscriptions, then that may be bad for the service itself. On the other hand, I guess it's going to depend how popular accounts on Twitter use them. You could think of this as a built-in Patreon for Twitter. And I guess in one sense, Twitter might be thinking, well, instead of paying a user on Patreon, why not pay them through Twitter? And I think it's mostly going to be an answer to something like OnlyFans, where the whole purpose of the account might be for exclusive content only for people that are subscribed. YouTube already has something like that too, right? You could pay $4.99 a month to become a member on a particular content creator. I guess the only difference here though is that videos do require a lot of time and effort to put together, and I don't think it's equivalent to tweets. But we'll see where it goes. So it looks like Cord is forcing Valve to tell Apple how much money 436 different PC games made. Valve will have to provide yearly sales and pricing data on 436 games that are available on both its PC game distribution platform, Steam, and the Epic Games Store. So that's the key difference. I thought it was like 436 random games, but it seems like they're games that are available on both Steam and the Epic Games Store. So I guess in a way that makes more sense. I think it still comes across as unnecessary to me. Still seems strange that Valve can be forced to provide that information, especially because they're a private company. So I would have thought that something like that wouldn't be possible. And speaking of Apple, Minnesota and Arizona bills aim to let developers skirt Apple's in-app purchase rules. So this actually came after North Dakota tried and failed to pass legislation to allow other third-party stores on something like an iPhone. So now Minnesota and Arizona are proposing very similar bills. And of course, Apple and Google are already starting to take aim at the proposal. And yes, I think Apple should allow you to download apps from a different store. Now, I understand that they've provided this platform and they want to be able to monetize the apps people are using on them. But I think it gives Apple too much power in what apps are approved and what other apps are not approved. And I think that's just bad for app creators. And speaking of the power these tech giants have, Facebook reverses Australian news ban after government makes media code amendment. After Facebook blocked users in Australia from sharing news articles, Facebook finally reversed the ban. And these tensions were between Australian media companies versus Facebook. Australian media companies were wanting Facebook to give them a cut of the traffic they bring to Facebook through sharing of news articles. And the law was going to force them to negotiate a fair payment with these news publishers for using their content. So Facebook banned people from sharing news articles, and then the government reacted by saying, okay, we won't force you, but we want to see more deals between you and these Australian news companies. And then once we see some, good amount of deals, then we'll hold off on forcing it. I feel like this story, it kind of makes both sides look bad because on one hand, they're fighting about who gets a bigger slice of the pie here. It shows the power that Facebook has, but also that the fact that we're so dependent on Facebook that they can hurt other people, people that are just trying to share the news. If you're enjoying my content, you can subscribe to me on YouTube, PeerTube, and follow me on Odyssey. You can also support me on LiberaPay, Patreon, and by shopping at Earth Hero. See links in the description below. California can finally enforce its landmark net neutrality law. So net neutrality was killed in 2017 by the Trump administration, but California pushed back and they passed their own net neutrality law, but it was blocked by lawsuits from Trump's Department of Justice and the telecom industry. The Department of Justice dropped their lawsuit challenging California's law earlier this month. And it looks like California won, so now they'll be able to enforce their net neutrality law. Overall, I think this is a good thing. Otherwise, ISPs can then decide who has to pay more for running traffic through their networks. And I hope this causes other states to follow in California's footsteps. Firefox 86 has been released with multiple picture-in-picture support. Picture-in-picture mode has become quite popular these days, and not only can you watch one video in picture-in-picture mode, but now you can watch multiple. I guess if you want to multitask, maybe have some music in the background while you watch some other content. So that's a cool feature, I think. Other changes worth noting in Firefox 86 is total cookie protection, which essentially sandboxes your cookies. So it prevents websites from tracking you across many different websites, which is a very good thing for privacy. You'll actually have to enable this though by going to settings, privacy and security, and enabling Firefox strict mode. Other things worth noting is that the browser uses the GPU for canvas and WebGL drawings. Reader mode now works on local HTML pages. Other general screen reader improvements, such as improved link contrast. So lots of nice little changes here. Take-Two Interactive has pulled the plug on efforts to reverse engineer GTA 3 and Vice City stories. Some users were trying to get a fully working reverse engineered game engine along with plenty of upgrades, and Take-Two Interactive went over and said, hey, sorry, you guys can't do this, which is unfortunate. You know, there's going to be a lot of games that are going to become unplayable on modern systems, and so I feel like I would love to see game companies to open source some of their games, especially classic games. I mean, if they have to make the ROMs downloadable on their websites, you know, and maybe have some advertisements so that they get some share of it, I mean, so be it. But there's going to be a lot of games that may never get remakes or remasters, and the only way to play them is through other users' efforts to reverse engineer those games. In some positive Linux gaming news, Valheim is still growing with 4 million sales. It's hit the top 5 of most played games on Steam ever. This is an indie game that's available for early access, and it's gotten very popular. And the one cool thing about this is that it's available natively on Linux, which is really cool because a lot of games that are very popular, they tend not to have first day Linux support. But it seems that the developers of the game really love Linux. This is a game that I'll likely be featuring on my Linux gaming Twitch account, so be sure to follow me at twitch.tv/Geoproton. You have reached the end of this episode. If you like this content, tune in next week for some more awesome tech news.